you for being here tonight. Get comfortable, settle in, and let me take you somewhere very, very old. I want you to picture a cold night, thousands and thousands of years ago. Long before roads, before houses, before anyone had a clock, there's a small fire burning low in the middle of a camp. People are sitting close to it, wrapped in animal skins, just trying to stay warm and listening to the dark all around them. And out past the firelight, something is moving. It's not a bear, it's not a deer, it's a wolf. A thin, careful, quiet wolf, resting right at the edge of where the people are. It doesn't come too close, and the people, they don't chase it away either. For a while they just share the same night. And I think, somewhere in that quiet moment, one of the oldest friendships on Earth got started. So tonight, we're going to follow that friendship. Nice and slowly. We're going to ask why ancient humans ended up trusting dogs more than any other animal, and why that trust still feels so deep, even today. Now, to understand all this, we have to go way back. Before cities, before farms, before writing, before anyone even had a word for dog. Back then, humans lived in small groups, and they moved around with the seasons, the food and the water, always looking for safe places. Life was slow, and it took a lot of patience. The world was beautiful, sure, but it was hard. It was freezing at night. Sometimes there was no food for days. Strange sound in the dark. Well, maybe it was nothing, or maybe it was something dangerous. You never really knew. So people watched everything. They watched the birds to figure out what the weather was doing. They watched the deer to learn how they moved. They looked at tracks in the mud, broken grass, chewed up bones. They learned slowly, because honestly, learning slowly and carefully was what kept them alive. Out of all the animals they watched, the wolves stood out. Wolves weren't like the deer and rabbits that ran off the second they saw a person. They weren't like the big dangerous animals you could only watch from far away. Wolves lived in families. They moved together, they listened to each other. They warned each other when something was wrong, and they took care of their babies. They knew what hunger felt like. They knew cold, and teamwork, and waiting. So in a simple way, their lives made sense to humans. People could look at wolves and sort of understand them. Now at first there was fear. Of course there was. A wolf has teeth, it's fast, and it can hear and smell everything. But humans had fire and tools and each other. So neither side was weak, and neither side felt completely safe. But you know how it is. Even when we're scared of something, we get curious about it. And when you're hungry on top of that, well, hunger can pull two very different lives closer than they ever planned to be. The first bridge between them was probably food. A bone left behind, scrap somebody threw away. A wolf brave enough to creep in and take it after the people moved back. Then it happened again the next night, and again, and slowly a pattern formed. The wolf learned that these humans weren't always a threat. The humans learned that this wolf wasn't coming to attack. Around the fire, around food and warmth, trust started to grow, in tiny little pieces, slowly and quietly. Before dogs had names, the world was a much quieter place. There were no streets, no doors closing at night, no lamps glowing inside warm rooms. There was just the wide open land, the sky above it, small groups of people learning how to live inside all that space. A human life back then was tied to the ground, to the water, the trees, grass, the snow, and the animals passing through. People were not separate from nature. They lived right inside it. So every day, they had to pay attention. A strange smell could matter. Fresh tracks near a stream could mean food was close by or danger was close by, both at once. In that old world, nothing was written down. Everything people knew lived in memory and stories. Children learned by walking beside the older people. They learned which berries were safe, which roots you could eat, which places held water after rain, and which quiet corners of the land were better left alone. They learned that the land was never really empty. Even when nothing moved, something out there was hiding, or sleeping, or just waiting. And the animals were not just background. They were teachers, in a way. Watching the deer taught people how fast things could run. Watching the birds told them what the weather was about to do. Fish taught patience. The bears taught people to keep their distance. People watched animals because watching kept them alive. They noticed how a herd lifted its heads before a storm came in. They noticed how the small birds went quiet when a hunter was moving nearby. Missing these little signs could mean hunger. Understanding them made life a little easier. But people also learned that no animal was simple. Deer could feed the whole group, but you could never keep one close. The wild horses were strong and fast, but they were scared of people and just ran. A bear was powerful, but it lived by its own rules, and getting too close could cost you your life. Birds could warn you with their calls, but they belonged to the sky, they never shared the fire. So humans respected animals in different ways. Some were hunted, some were avoided, and some were feared so deeply that people only spoke about them in low voices. Long before any animal became a friend, people understood that every creature had its own nature. To live well, you had to accept that nature, not fight it. And there were no dogs yet. No dog sleeping next to the children. No dog lifting its head when something moved outside the camp. That space in human life, the warm space where the dog would one day fit so perfectly, was still empty. Nobody knew it yet. At night people had each other. They had the fire, if the fire survived the wind. And the fire, well, was the centre of everything. You can almost picture it. The soft orange light moving gently over tired faces. The slow, rhythmic crackle of the burning wood, popping softly now and then. A thin line of smoke rising into the cold night air. People sat shoulder to shoulder, wrapped in heavy animal skins that still held the warmth of the day. Their eyelids were heavy. Their bodies were tired in that good, deep way you feel after a long day of walking. A child was already asleep against someone's arm, breathing slowly. An elder spoke quietly for a while, and then stopped. And outside that small circle of light, the land was completely still, just the gentle rustle of leaves somewhere in the dark. Maybe a river far off. The air was crisp and clean. Breathing it in felt cool all the way down. The stars were unbelievably bright back then, you see. People would lie back on the skins, warm on one side from the fire, and drift off, one by one, to the sound of each other breathing. It was a hard life, yes, but almost every night ended like this, quiet, warm, and safe. That is also why the first trust with any animal had to grow so slowly. Ancient people could not afford to trust foolishly. They had to watch and remember and see the same safe pattern again and again and again. Trust was not a feeling that arrived in one night. It was built out of many quiet moments that simply did not end badly. So before the dog ever had a name, there was a long season of watching. Humans watched the land, the animals, and the dark. And somewhere out beyond the edge of the firelight, another watcher was learning too. Slowly, quietly, carefully under the cold stars. Now, first meetings between humans and wolves were probably not gentle, not the way we picture friendship today. There was no hand reaching out, soft calling, no animal walking happily into camp. There was distance, there was hunger. On one side were the people, gathered close to their fire, holding their tools, keeping their children and their food safe. And on the other side was the wolf. careful and lean, watching from the dark, pulled in by the smell of food, but held back by fear. The wolf smelled the meat long before it saw the people clearly. It smelled the bones, the fat, the ash, the smoke. To a hungry animal, those smells meant maybe, just maybe, there is food here. But they also meant danger, because humans were strange creatures. They stood up on two legs. They carried sticks and stones. A wolf could not ignore them, but it could not trust them either. And the humans could not ignore the wolf. Even when it stayed far away, just knowing it was out there changed. Someone would notice the shape at the edge of the camp. Someone would speak quietly, reach slowly for a tool. The children would be pulled in a little closer. Another branch would go on the fire, and the light would push a little further into the dark. Nobody had to explain why. Everyone understood that a wolf was not a small thing. Here is the thing. The wolf did not attack. It came near, it waited, it watched, and then sometimes it just moved away. Might stop. The moment people stood up, it might lower its head and quietly search the ground where scraps had been left. These were small moments, but small moments were how ancient people understood their world. One night meant very little, but many nights slowly began to mean something. First, the people probably threw stones or shouted to keep the wolf away. And I mean, they had good reason. Food was precious. Safety was precious. No group could just let a wild animal wander in. But if the wolf kept coming back, night after night, and never rushed in, people started to measure it. How close does it come? Does it show its teeth? Does it run when we challenge it? Does it wait until we are finished eating? And the wolf, you know, it was measuring them too. It learned where the people threw their bones, learned when the fire burned high and when it burned low. It learned that the children made quick sounds, that the adults moved with purpose, that the old ones stayed near the warm centre of camp. It learned the whole rhythm of camp life from the outside, one quiet evening at a time, so curiosity grew slowly between them. It did not erase the fear. It just sat next to it. The humans wondered why this animal kept coming back. The wolf wondered why these strange creatures kept leaving food behind. Neither side needed to understand the whole story. They just needed the next moment to be safe. Honestly, hunger did most of the work. A hungry wolf was willing to risk coming closer for a bone. Tired human group, warm by the fire, full from the evening meal. Well, chasing a wolf into the cold dark just was not worth it. The bone stayed on the ground. The wolf took it after everyone moved away, and the next night it came again. Over time, the space between them became familiar. The wolf learned the invisible line it should not cross. The humans learned the distance where they could just let it be. Now, this was not trust yet. It was more like tolerance, a small, quiet rule between them. You stay there, we stay here. You do not rush us, we do not chase you. And in a hard world, even a small rule like that was worth something. Of course, not every wolf could do this. The boldest ones were too dangerous. Fearful ones stayed too far away. But a few of them were calm enough, and patient enough, to live near the edge of human life. Those few mattered. They were not dogs yet, not really. They were still wolves, completely wild. But they were wolves that could watch and wait, so the first meetings were quiet ones. No promise was made, no name was given. A fire burned low, a wolf rested somewhere beyond it. The night stayed peaceful, and I guess you could say the trust was starting right there. But, you know, it was slow. Very slow, just one quiet night at a time. Wolves were different from many animals ancient humans knew. They were not the largest animals, and they were not the fastest. But they carried a special kind of mind. They noticed things. They remembered things. They worked with others. Because of that, humans could understand them. in a way that was harder with many creatures. A deer could be watched, followed, and hunted, but a deer did not want to know humans. It wanted distance. Its safety was in running away. When it smelled people, it lifted its head, turned its ears, and escaped if it could. Humans could learn from deer, but they could not build closeness with deer, because the deer's whole body said, "Stay away." Wild, horse-like animals were hard to come near. They were strong, quick, and nervous. They moved in groups, but their answer to fear was open space. If people came close, they ran, power was in their legs, and in the herd, moving as one. They were beautiful to watch, useful to understand, but not easy to invite toward a fire. Bears were different again. A bear could be clever. A bear could remember places where food was found. But a bear did not need people, did not live as a partner. It was strong enough to walk alone, feed alone, sleep alone, and defend itself alone. To humans, bear was a creature to respect, but not a creature to pull close. Birds gave signs from above and from the trees. They called before danger. They moved with weather. They showed where seeds, fruit, or water might be. But birds belonged to their own world. They could warn people without meaning to help them. They could guide the eye, but they did not sit beside the group and share the same ground, stood in another place. They were hunters, but they were also family animals. They lived with parents, young ones, brothers, sisters, companions. They did not survive only by strength. They survived by watching each other, moving together and sharing work. One wolf could chase, another could wait, another could turn prey. This life had a pattern humans could recognize. Humans also lived in groups. They cared for children. They listened to elders. They shared food when they could. They warned each other when danger came near. They followed leaders sometimes. Sometimes they changed plans together. So when humans watched wolves, they did not only see teeth and hunger, they saw another group-minded animal trying to solve the same problems. This does not mean wolves were gentle. They were not soft companions waiting to be loved. They were wild animals with their own needs. But their wildness had order inside it. They had signals. They had habits. They had rules about space, food, warning, and family. Ancient humans were good at reading rules in nature, because reading rules helped them stay alive. A wolf could show caution without disappearing completely. It could step back instead of running far away. It could watch a camp and learn. It could return to the same place if that place had food and did not bring harm. This made wolves unusual. Many animals either fled too quickly or came too close in dangerous ways. The right wolf could stay near the edge, neither fully inside nor fully gone. Wolves were also alert in a way humans could value. Their ears caught small sounds. Their noses read the air. Bodies changed when something was wrong. A wolf might stop, turn its head, stiffen, or look into the dark before a human noticed anything, even before trust became friendship. Humans could see that this animal knew things about the night that people might miss. There was intelligence in that. Not the same as human thinking, not the thinking of words, tools, and stories, but the intelligence of scent, memory, and timing. A wolf could learn from repeated events. It could remember where food appeared. It could notice which humans were dangerous and which humans watched. It could change by paying attention. That is why wolves stood apart. They were close enough to human life to be understood, but wild enough to be respected. They were dangerous, but not only dangerous. Hungry, but not mindless. Social, but not helpless. Watchful, but not always fleeing. In a world where every animal had its own nature, the wolf's nature came strangely near to the human one. And so beside all the other animals of the ancient world, the wolf became something special. Not a friend yet, not a dog yet, but a creature with a shape humans could read. It lived with others, it learned, it watched, it waited. Because of that, the first small door toward trust could open. Food may have been the first quiet bridge between humans and wolves, planned gift, not an act of love, not a clear decision made around the fire, just food left behind at the end of a hard day. A cracked bone, strip of fat, a piece of skin with meat still holding to it. To humans, these scraps might have been waste. To a hungry wolf, they were worth waiting for. Ancient people did not have much, and they did not throw food away carelessly. But after a hunt, after cutting meat, breaking bones for marrow, there were always pieces that were less useful to human hands. Some were too small, some were too tough, some were left near the edge of camp because they smelled strong, drew flies, or were no longer needed. The wolf could smell them from far away. At first, it would not come while people were close. It would wait. It would stand beyond the safe space of the fire and watch. Body would be ready to run. Its ears would move with every sound. The people might see it, but if it stayed far enough, they might leave it alone. Chasing it would cost energy. Throwing stones might be enough. Sometimes doing nothing was easier. When the people finally moved away, the wolf came forward. Slowly, lightly, stopping often, it took the bone, carried it off, and ate in a safer place. Nothing more happened. No attack, chase, no great change. But the next night or the next week, it remembered, it returned to the smell of people, smoke and scraps. This is how patterns begin. One safe visit becomes two become many. The wolf learns that food may appear near humans. Humans learn that the wolf waits, takes what is left, and leaves. Both sides are still careful, but the fear becomes more shaped. It is no longer a wild, unknown fear. It has edges. It has rules. The people may have started to notice which wolf came back. Maybe it had a lighter coat, a torn ear, a careful walk, or a way of stopping at the same place each time. Ancient people were skilled watchers. They remembered small differences. They knew that one animal was not the same as another. Calmer wolf was easier to allow near the edge than a bold one that pushed too close. The wolf also noticed differences in people. Some humans shouted quickly, some threw stones, some ignored it. Some left bones in the same place. Some moved slowly and did not stare too hard. To a wolf, these details mattered. Its life depended on reading signs. It learned which moments were safe and which moments were not. Shared meal did not mean sitting side by side. It meant using the same food in different ways. Humans took what they needed first. The wolf took what remained after. It was not equal, but it was useful. The camp became a place where food could be found. The wolf became a visitor that helped clean what was left behind. Without knowing it, both sides were helping each other. Another hidden gift in this pattern. The wolf that stayed near the camp also kept watch. It listened while it waited. It smelled the wind while it searched for scraps. If another animal came close, the wolf might react before the humans did. At first, this reaction was only for itself. It was not protecting people, but humans could still notice. A sudden movement from the wolf could make them look up. A low sound in the dark could tell them something was near. So the scraps did more than feed a hungry animal. They kept the wolf returning. Return made memory. Memory made familiarity. Familiarity made the space between humans and wolves a little less sharp. The same place, the same smell, the same waiting, the same safe ending, again and again. Over many seasons, the boldest and most dangerous wolves may have been chased away or killed. Very fearful ones stayed far from camp and never joined the pattern. But the calmer ones, the ones that could wait, watch, take food without causing trouble, had an advantage. They got extra food. They survived difficult nights. They stayed close enough for humans to remember them. This was not yet friendship. It was something older and quieter. It was a bargain without words. Food lay between them like a small promise. You may take this if you do not threaten us. We may let you return if you keep your distance. Slowly, through bones, scraps, hunger, and patience, the first shared meal became the first shared habit, and habit became the ground where trust could grow. Fear did not leave the human camp in one moment. It did not melt away because one wolf took one bone and walked back into the dark. Fear stayed, should have stayed. It was a useful feeling. It kept children close. It kept hands near tools. It kept eyes open when the night felt too still. Fear can change its shape. At first it is sharp and sudden. A shadow moves, and everybody becomes ready. A wolf appears. The whole group feels the old warning. Then the same wolf appears again, at the same distance, with the same careful walk. Nothing terrible happens. The warning is still there, but it becomes a little quieter. This is how familiarity begins. Not with trust, not with love, but with knowing what may happen next. The wolf comes near after food. It stops at the edge. It waits. It does not rush the fire. It does not charge at the people. It takes a scrap only when the humans move away. Then it leaves. When this happens many times, the mind begins to understand the pattern. They knew when certain animals returned to a valley. They knew when ice became weak. They knew which clouds promised rain and which winds carried cold. So when a wolf repeated the same calm behavior, humans noticed. A repeated safe thing became easier to accept than a new unknown thing. The wolf was learning human patterns too. It learned that loud voices meant distance. It learned that sudden standing meant warning. It learned that children moved quickly. Adults controlled the edge of the camp. It learned that a hand lifting a stone was different from a hand dropping a bone. These small lessons gathered inside the animal, slowly, without words. Body language mattered more than anything. Wolf did not need human speech to feel anger, fear, or calm. It could read shoulders, speed, gaze, and stillness. Humans also read the wolf's body. A low head could mean caution. A stiff body could mean trouble. A turned face could mean the animal was unsure. A slow step back could mean it wanted no fight. Peace grew through these quiet signs. The humans did not have to touch the wolf. Wolf did not have to enter the circle. It was enough that both sides learned how not to frighten each other too much. A person might stop shouting if the wolf stayed far away. The wolf might stop running if the person only watched. Little by little, the space between them became calmer. This kind of calm was important because ancient life already held many hard things. Hunger made people tired. Cold made them careful. Long walks made the body ache. A group did not need extra danger near the camp, so any animal that could be near without creating trouble became easier to allow. The wolf, if it behaved in a steady way, became part of the edge of normal life. Still, no one forgot what it was. It was not a pet. It was not owned. It was not fully safe. If it came too close, people would warn it away. If it acted bold around children or food, the old fear would return at once. Trust had limits. Limits helped the trust survive, because they kept both sides from moving too quickly. For the wolf, these limits were clear. Stay back. Wait. Take what is left. Leave when the humans become tense. A wolf that understood this could live better than one that ignored it. It might find more food, waste less energy, and survive harder seasons. Calm behavior was rewarded, not by kindness alone, but by life itself. Time, the most peaceful contacts became the most useful ones. The wolf that did not panic could remain near. Human group that did not attack without reason could save energy. Nothing about this needed to be spoken. It was written in repeated actions. Come near, wait, eat, leave, watch, accept, remember, sleep. This slow becoming familiar may have taken many generations, may have happened in different places, in different ways, with different groups of people and different wolves. But the heart of it was simple. Fear became less wild when behavior became predictable. Predictable behavior made room for patience. Patience made room for closeness. And closeness, even careful closeness, changed everything. The wolf at the edge was no longer only a danger. It was also a known presence. The humans were no longer only strange enemies. They were also a source of warmth, food, and order. Between them, fear still lived, but now it lived beside memory, habit, and a very small beginning of trust. The deeper bond may have begun in the dark. For ancient people, night was not only a time for rest. It was also a time for listening. The fire could be warm, the group could be close, the children could be sleeping, but the land around them was still awake. Animals moved when the light was gone. Feet touched leaves, wings shifted in trees. Something might pass near the camp without being seen at all. Human beings had good senses, and ancient humans used them well. They listened better than most of us do now. They knew the sound of wind in grass, the crack of cold wood, the small movement of a sleeping child, the heavy step of something large. But even careful human ears had limits. Even careful human noses had limits. In the dark, wolf could know things first. A wolf could smell what the wind carried. It could hear a step far away. It could feel movement through small changes in the air and ground. It did not need to understand human fear to react to danger, only needed to protect itself. If something strange came close, the wolf became still. Its ears turned, its body tightened, its head lifted. Change alone could tell humans something. At first, this was not protection in the warm way we think of it now. The wolf was not saying, guard these people because I love them. It was watching for itself. It wanted to live. It wanted to avoid a larger predator, a rival pack, or any sudden threat. But because it stayed near the human camp, its watchfulness became useful to humans too. A person half asleep might hear the wolf move and wake. Another might notice a low sound from the edge of camp. Someone might see the animal rise and face the darkness. Then the humans would listen harder. They would reach for tools, pull children closer. They would feed the fire. The wolf had not spoken, but it had given a warning. This mattered deeply. In a hard world, warning was a gift. It gave the group a few extra breaths. It gave them time to wake, gather together, and understand what was happening. The danger might be another animal. It might be a stranger. It might be nothing more than a branch falling. But even a false warning could remind people that the night was being watched. Over time, humans may have started to value the calm wolf that stayed near. Not only because it ate scraps, but because it reacted before they did. If it slept peacefully, the camp could feel a little easier. If it lifted its head, the camp paid attention. Slowly, the animal at the edge became part of the camp's sense of safety. This is one reason wolves, and later early dogs, became different from other animals. A deer could warn by running, but it would run away from people too. A bird could call from a tree, but it might leave without caring what happened below. A horse-like animal could sense danger, but it would flee into the open. The wolf stayed near enough for its fear to become a signal humans could use. The wolf also understood group safety. In its own life, did not survive alone all the time. It watched with others. It listened for its pack. It knew that one animal alert could wake the rest. This made its behaviour easier for humans to read. Humans also knew what it meant when one member of the group noticed danger. One became more awake. This shared alertness was simple, but it was precious. It did not require words. It did not require teaching. It only required two kinds of minds living near the same danger and answering the same dark. As the generations passed, the wolves that lived closer to people may have grown more used to human sleep and human movement. Their young may have heard human voices from an early age. They may have learned that the fire area was not only a place of food, but a place of shelter. They still had wild instincts, but they were learning a new kind of night. And humans were learning too. They were learning that this animal did not only take. It also gave something, even if it did not mean to. It gave awareness, gave a wider circle of hearing and smell. It helped stretch the human senses beyond the fire, beyond the bodies sleeping close together, out into the hidden edges of the dark. Imagine how that would feel after many nights. You lie down with your group. The fire is low but alive. Cold is outside the warm space. Near the edge, the animal settles. It turns once, lowers its body, and rests, but not fully. Part of it is always awake. Part of it belongs to the dark. You know that if something comes near, it may know before you do. That feeling is powerful. It is not full trust yet, but it is the beginning of comfort. Body relaxes a little more when another living thing is listening. Sleep becomes less lonely. The night feels less empty. The camp feels larger than before, because its awareness now reaches through the senses of another animal. This may be one of the oldest reasons humans came to trust dogs so deeply. Dogs did not only share food, they shared attention. They did not only sleep near people. They became the living line between the soft human circle and the unknown world outside it. Long before there were houses, gates, locks, or walls, there was a watching animal near the fire. It smelled the wind, heard the small sounds. It rose when the darkness changed. And little by little, humans began to feel that the night was not theirs to face alone. Trust did not arrive like a sudden light. It came slowly in pieces so small that no one may have noticed them at first. One calm visit, one quiet night, one animal waiting at the same distance, one scrap taken without trouble, one human voice heard without panic. These moments repeated until the strange began to feel known. For ancient people, trust was serious. Trust could not be given just because something seemed harmless once. A single peaceful moment did not prove safety. The world was too hard for that. Creature could be calm one night and dangerous the next. So people watched again. They remembered again. They waited for the pattern. The animal had to return and return and return. Each return carried a question. Would it stay back? Would it rush? Would it growl? Would it steal food from a hand? Would it threaten a child? If the answer kept being no, the feeling around that animal began to soften. Not fully, not quickly, but enough for the body to stop tightening every time it appeared. This softening mattered. Calm wolf or early dog came near and did not attack. It gave the human group one more safe memory. Safe memories are powerful. They sit inside the mind like small stones placed one by one. After enough of them, they make a path. The path says, this animal has come before. This animal has waited before. This animal has left us unharmed before. The animal was building its own path too. It learned that human voices were not all threats. A sharp shout meant move away. A low, steady voice might mean nothing dangerous was happening. Laughter, talking, children's noises, the crack of wood, the scrape of tools, all became part of the camp. At first, they may have made the animal tense. Later they became familiar. This is one of the quiet secrets of trust. Familiar things ask less from the body. The heart does not race as much. The muscles do not prepare to run as quickly. The mind has room to notice. A person can look at the animal and see not only danger, but behavior. The animal can look at the people and see not only threat, but order. Predictable behavior created emotional safety. If the animal stopped at the same place, humans could relax a little at that distance. If it moved away when warned, people learned that their voices had meaning to it. If it stayed calm when children moved, the group learned that not every quick sound would bring danger. These were the early language of living together. The human voice may have played a gentle role. People speak even when they do not mean to teach. They murmur while working. They call to each other. They warn, comfort, laugh, and settle children. A wolf near the camp would hear these sounds again and again. It would learn the difference between calm voices and angry voices, between noise and alarm. And humans may have noticed when the animal responded. A soft word might make it pause. A warning tone might make it step back. A repeated call near food might bring it closer, carefully, only a little. This did not mean it understood language the way a human did. It meant it was learning the feeling inside the sounds. That was enough to begin a bond, comfort in being understood, even simply. When humans saw that the animal reacted to their voices, the space between them changed. The animal was no longer only a wild shape outside the fire. It was listening. It was noticing. It was answering with its body. People who lived by signs, this answer mattered. The animal also learned human calm. If people moved slowly, it stayed calmer. People looked away instead of staring hard. It felt less trapped. If food appeared after peaceful waiting, then peaceful waiting became useful. Calm behavior was rewarded by safety and food. The animal that controlled its fear had more reason to stay. Slow training was not like modern training. There were no commands written down, no planned lessons, no clear line between wild and tame. It was life teaching both sides. The people learned what the animal could bear. The animal learned what the people allowed. Each side shaped the other. Trust also grew because nothing bad happened. That sounds simple, but it is important. A peaceful night matters. Safe morning matters. A child walking past while the animal remains still matters. An old person tossing a bone and not being chased matters. Sleeping camp waking to find everything as it was matters. These moments make fear grow tired. Fear cannot stay sharp forever when the same safe ending keeps returning. It begins to rest. It does not vanish, because caution is wise, but it steps back. It makes room for a feeling that says, maybe this animal belongs near us. Maybe it is part of the edge of home. For the animal, the camp also became a safe place. There was warmth nearby. There was food. There were humans who kept dangers away with fire, numbers, and tools. Wolf, or early dog that stayed close to people, gained more than scraps. It gained a place where the world was more predictable. This shared safety was the heart of the bond. Humans did not trust dogs first because dogs were cute, or because dogs were useful in one simple way. They trusted them because the animal kept returning without breaking the peace. It listened, it waited, it warned, it moved with care around the human world. And from these repeated moments, something began to grow. Not ownership, not full friendship yet, something quieter, a living agreement. You can be near us, we can be near you. We will learn your signs, you will learn ours. And together, night after night, the space between fear and trust will become smaller. Humans and wolves had one important thing in common. They did not truly live alone. They both lived around others. They both understood the meaning of a group. Long before a wolf became a dog, and long before humans had villages or written rules, both species already knew that life was safer when it was shared. a lone human in the ancient world was in danger. One person could gather food, carry tools, and make choices, but one person could not do everything. Someone had to watch the children. Someone had to remember the path. Someone had to keep the fire alive. Someone had to listen while others slept. A group gave each person more chances to live. Wolves also knew this truth. A wolf alone could survive for a time, but the pack made life stronger. Together, wolves could hunt better. They could guard their young. They could warn each other. They could rest while another stayed alert. Their lives were not the same as human lives. But the pattern was close enough for humans to understand. Both humans and wolves cared for their young. This mattered deeply. A creature that protects its young is a creature with patience, memory, and feeling. Human adults carried children, fed them, warmed them, and taught them slowly. Wolves also fed their pups, guarded them, played with them, and taught them how to live. In both worlds, the young were not left to learn everything alone. When humans watched wolves with pups, they saw a kind of order. They saw adults bringing food. They saw young ones playing and learning. They saw warning, correction, patience, and care. It may not have felt human. It was not strange, in the way some animal lives were strange. It was family life in another shape. Wolves may have watched human families in the same slow way. They saw small humans staying near larger humans. They heard soft sounds around children. They noticed adults becoming more tense when the young moved toward danger. The wolf did not need to think in human words to understand that the smaller ones were protected. It knew that pattern from its own life. Shared space was another lesson. Humans lived close together because they had to. Sleeping places, food, tools, fire, and shelter all had to be arranged. People learned where to sit, where to store things, when to move aside, and when to help. Too much pushing could cause conflict. Too much carelessness could create danger. So the group needed small rules. Wolves also lived with small rules. They knew who could eat first, who should wait, who should move away, and who could come close. They used posture, sounds, looks, and distance. A wolf that ignored every signal would bring trouble to the pack. A wolf that understood signals could fit in. This mattered for the bond with humans. An animal that already understood social signals could learn new signals more easily. It could learn that a human shout meant step back. It could learn that a calm voice meant stay. It could learn that a hand holding food was different from a hand throwing a stone. Wolves were not empty minds waiting to be shaped. They already had a social world inside them. Humans also had leaders, though not always. Sometimes the best hunter led the path. Sometimes an elder led by memory. Sometimes a skilled gatherer knew where to go. Sometimes a quiet person knew when to wait. Leadership in ancient life was often practical. People followed the one who knew what to do. Wolves also followed skill, age, strength, and family order. They understood direction from others. They knew when to move together and when to pause. This made them different from many animals that simply scattered when afraid. A wolf could join a shared movement. It could follow. It could wait, could respond to the group. Because of this, humans and wolves could learn shared manners. The humans did not need the wolf to become human. The wolf did not need humans to become wolves. They only needed enough shared understanding to avoid conflict and build routine. Stay near, but not too near. Eat after the people. Listen to warning. Do not threaten the young. Return when the group is calm. These rules may have formed without anyone planning them. The camp itself taught them. Food taught them. Fear taught them. Repeated peaceful contact taught them. A wolf that could live by the edge of human rules got food and safety. A human group that allowed a calm animal near gained warning, company, and another set of senses. Working together came later in deeper ways, but the roots were already there. Humans knew teamwork. Wolves knew teamwork. Humans knew shared attention. Wolves knew shared attention. When both looked toward same sound in the night, they were already doing something together. When both moved carefully around each other without panic, they were already sharing space. There is something gentle in this idea. The first bond did not need perfect understanding. It only needed enough. Enough to read fear. Enough to read calm. Enough to protect young ones. Enough to know when to come closer and when to back away. Trust often begins this way, not with complete knowledge, but with repeated respect. Time, the calmer wolves, and later the earliest dogs, began to fit more easily into the human group. They may have rested near the edge, followed people on walks, waited near food, or stayed near children without causing alarm. Humans began to see them not only as outside animals, but as beings that understood group life, that mattered deeply. Many animals could give humans food, signs, strength, or beauty. Wolves gave something else. They understood the pack. And because humans also understood the pack, the two species could meet in the middle, slowly, carefully, and with a quiet sense that living together might make the world safer for both. A large part of trust came from the way early dogs paid attention. They did not only live near humans, they watched them. They listened to them. They studied the small changes in human bodies and voices, the way a careful animal studies wind, scent, and ground. For humans, this must have felt different from almost every other animal. Many animals watched people only to escape them. Deer watched for danger. Birds watched from high places and flew away. Bears noticed humans, but usually followed their own needs. Wolves, and later dogs, could watch in a closer way. They watched because human actions mattered to them. Eyes were important. A wolf could see where a person was looking. It could note if a human stared directly, which might feel like a threat. It could notice if the body turned away, which might feel safer. Time, the calmer animals learned that human eyes carried meaning. A look could warn. A look could invite. A look could ask the animal to wait. Humans were learning the animal's eyes too. Wide eyes could mean fear. A steady look could mean attention. Quick glance toward the dark could mean something had moved. When the animal looked one way, humans might look too. This shared looking was simple, powerful. It made both sides feel connected to the same moment. Ears also carried trust. A dog's ears could hear things humans missed, but ears also showed feeling. When the ears lifted, humans knew the animal was alert. When they turned, humans knew it was listening. When they softened, the body often softened too. People who lived close to animals would have noticed these small signs again and again. The early dog listened to human sounds with the same care. It heard anger, calm, fear, warning, comfort, and routine. It did not need to understand every word. It only needed to understand the mood inside the sound. A hard voice meant stop or move away. Gentle voice meant the moment was safe. A repeated call near food meant come closer, but carefully. This is why silence mattered too. Not every message needed noise. A still human could calm an animal. A relaxed animal could calm a human. When both sides were quiet and nothing bad happened, the quiet itself became a lesson. It said, we can share this space. We can be near each other without fear rising too high. Animal psychology can sound like a difficult subject, but the basic idea is simple. Animals remember what feels safe and what feels dangerous. They notice patterns. They repeat actions that help them live. Coming near humans brought food and warmth. And if staying calm kept them safe, then calm closeness became useful. Listening to humans helped avoid punishment or danger, Then listening became important. For humans, the same thing happened in the heart and body. If an animal came near and stayed gentle, the human body learned to relax. If the animal reacted to danger before humans did, people learned to value its attention. If it answered a voice, waited when warned, and returned without harm, people began to feel that this animal was not only wild, it was responsive. That word is important, even if we keep it simple. Responsive means the animal answered the world around it. It did not act like a stone or a storm. It changed when people changed. It moved back when they warned. It came closer when they allowed. It became still when the group became still. This made trust easier, because humans could feel that their behaviour mattered. Many animals could not offer this kind of closeness. A deer might hear a human voice and run. A bear might ignore it or become dangerous. A bird might call and fly away. But an early dog could stay and listen, could remain inside the human world long enough to learn its sounds. Over many generations, the animals best at reading humans likely did better near human groups. A calmer young wolf or early dog that could understand human. Anger stayed out of trouble. One that could follow a soft call might get food. One that could rest quietly near camp might be allowed to remain. Slowly, the animals that understood people became the animals people trusted most. People did not trust only their strength. They trusted their attention. A strong animal can still be frightening. A useful animal can still feel distant. But an animal that watches your face, listens to your voice, changes its behaviour around your feelings, begins to feel close. It feels like it is not only beside you, but with you. This closeness may have touched something deep in human life. Humans are social beings. We look for answers in faces. We listen for changes in tone. We feel safer when someone notices us. Early dogs entered that human way of feeling. They gave attention back. They lifted their heads when people moved. They came closer when people softened. They became quiet when the camp became quiet. Of course, this did not happen perfectly. Some animals were still too fearful. Some were too bold. Some could not be trusted. But the ones that stayed listened and answered. Human signals became special. They were easier to live with. They were easier to remember. They were easier to care for. This was not magic, only patient learning, repeated across nights, seasons, births, and camps, until the animal beside the fire felt less like a stranger and more like quiet company. In the long story of humans and dogs, eyes, ears, silence did quiet work. They built a bridge without words. The human looked, and the dog noticed. The dog listened, and the human felt safer. Both sides rested in shared quiet, learning that the other could be near without harm. And from that calm attention, trust grew deeper than hunger, deeper than habit, and closer to the heart. Hunting was one of the first great places where humans and early dogs could learn to move together. It was not only about chasing animals, it was about patience, silence, timing, memory, and trust. Hunt could begin long before anyone saw the animal they were looking for. It could begin with a smell in the wind, a print in soft ground, broken stem, or a quiet change in the behaviour of birds. Humans were already skilled hunters before dogs became true companions. They knew how to read tracks, wait in cover, follow herds, and work with other people. They made tools with care. They remembered where animals came to drink, where they rested, and where the land made movement easier. But even the best human hunter could not smell the world the way a dog could. The early dog carried a map in its nose. A place that looked empty to human eyes could be full of meaning to it. The ground held old steps, fresh steps, fear, sweat, fur, blood, water, passing of many lives. The air carried stories that humans could not hear or see. When the animal lowered its head and followed a scent, it was reading a hidden path. At first, this help may not have been planned. A wolf-like dog might follow humans because humans disturbed prey, scraps, or moved toward food. Humans might notice that the animal became alert before they did. It might stop at a trail, circle a patch of ground, or look toward a place where something had passed. Little by little, people learned to watch the watcher. This was a new kind of teamwork. Humans did not need the dog to speak. The dog did not need humans to explain the plan in words. The animal's body gave signs. A lifted head could mean scent on the wind. A lowered nose could mean a trail. A sudden pause could mean something close. A careful step could mean the hunt needed quiet. People could answer with their own signs. They could slow down. They could lower their voices. They could stop when the dog stopped. They could move together instead of rushing ahead. In this way, the hunt became a shared movement across the land. One species brought tools, planning, and hands. The other brought scent, hearing, speed, and alertness. This did not make hunting easy. Ancient hunting was still hard work. Many hunts failed. Animals escaped. Weather changed. Tracks faded. Wind turned the wrong way. A group might walk for hours and return with little, but even when the hunt failed, the dog could still help people learn. It could show where animals had been. It could point attention toward hidden paths. It could teach humans more about the land. For humans, this kind of help was valuable, because food was never just food. Food meant warmth in the body. It meant strength for children. It meant elders could keep going. It meant hides, bones, fat, sinew, and tools. One successful hunt could support many parts of life. So an animal that helped even a little could become deeply important. The dog also gained from this work. When humans hunted well, there were bones, scraps, and organs to eat. There was a place near the fire afterward. There was safety in being close to a strong group. Following humans could mean more regular food than hunting alone, so the dog had reason to stay near, pay attention, and return again the next day. Over time, the animals that worked best with humans would have been remembered. A dog that followed scent well was useful. A dog that barked too soon might scare prey away. A dog that stayed close, listened, and moved with the group was easier to trust. Calm, attention mattered as much as speed. Patience mattered as much as hunger. This is an important part of the story. Humans did not trust dogs only because dogs could help catch food. They trusted them because dogs could join the human rhythm. They could wait when waiting was needed. They could move when movement was needed. They could listen to tone, watch gestures, feel the direction of the group. Hunting together made the bond practical, but it also made it emotional. Two living beings work toward the same need. They begin to feel connected. They share tension. They share stillness. They share the slow walk, the careful pause, the sudden attention, and the quiet return. The dog learned that humans had plans. Humans learned that the dog had knowledge. Each side carried something the other did not have. This sharing may have changed the way humans thought about dogs. The animal was no longer only near the camp. It could move with the group into the open land. It could help find what was hidden. It could make a difficult day a little less uncertain. It became part of the work of living. And because hunting required trust, bond became stronger. A human had to trust that the dog's sudden stop meant something. The dog had to trust that staying near humans would bring food and safety. Both had to learn not to frighten each other at the wrong moment, had to listen in their own ways. The calmest dogs made the work feel less lonely. They moved ahead, then looked back, checking the group was still together. That small turning back was another sign that two kinds of life, were beginning to move as one slowly. So the hunt became more than a search for meat. It became a quiet lesson in partnership. Grass, snow, stone, mud, forest, and open ground, humans and early dogs learned to move as two different bodies with one shared purpose. One looked with eyes and memory. One read the world through scent and sound. Together, they followed the hidden paths of animals, and with each careful journey, trust walked beside them. One of the greatest gifts early dogs gave humans was warning. Not a wall, not a weapon, not a promise that danger would never come. In the ancient world, a few extra moments could mean everything. They could mean time to stand, time to wake others, time to lift a child, time to gather close, or time to feed the fire before fear reached the camp. Humans watched carefully, but no person could watch all the time. Eyes grew tired, bodies needed sleep. A mother holding a child could not also listen to every far sound. An elder, resting after a long walk, could not smell what moved beyond the wind. A hunter might know many signs in daylight, but in darkness, the land changed. It became harder to read. Dogs helped widen the circle of attention. They did not need to be told that something was wrong. Their bodies answered before humans understood. A dog might raise its head from rest. Its ears might point toward a sound no one else had heard. It might stop chewing, stop moving, and become very still. That stillness was a message. Sometimes the warning was a bark. Sometimes it was only a low sound in the throat. Sometimes it was a sudden turn, a tense body, careful step forward, or a quick look toward camp. Humans learned these signs the same way they learned weather, tracks, and fire. They watched, remembered, and connected one thing with another. A bark in the night did not always mean danger was close. It could mean a stranger scent. It could mean another animal passing far away. It could mean the dog was unsure, but even that was useful. It told the group to pay attention. It said, something has changed. This kind of warning made humans feel safer because it gave them time. Safety is not only the absence of danger. Sometimes safety is the chance to meet danger awake. A sleeping group is weak. An awake group is stronger. Dog that could turn sleep into alertness became valuable. Early dogs were not perfect guards. They could be wrong. They could bark at harmless things. They could become nervous. But their mistakes were easier to accept than silence. Silence gave no clue. Silence left people alone with what they could not sense. A dog's reaction, even when uncertain, gave the group something to work with. Coom. Over many nights, humans began to understand different kinds of warning. A short bark might feel different from a deep, repeated bark. Stiff body might mean something closer than a lifted head. A dog that moved toward the darkness might be following scent. Dog that moved back toward the people might be asking the group to notice. These differences became camp knowledge. Dogs also helped during the day. They noticed movement in grass, strangers near a path, animals hidden by trees, or stored food. They could smell another creature before it stepped into view. They could hear feet beyond a bend. Pause. They could pause at a place where humans might have walked past too quickly. In this way, the warning system was not only for night, travelled with people. This changed the feeling of daily life. The human group still had to work, gather, hunt, carry, mend, cook, care for children. But with dogs nearby, part of the world was being watched by another set of senses. People could focus on their tasks while knowing that the animal would react if something was wrong. That did not remove caution, but it shared the burden of caution. Shared caution is a quiet form of trust. It means one living thing helps another remain aware. It means the group does not have to hold every fear alone. When a dog lifted its ears, people listened. When people became tense, the dog felt it too. Each side could wake the other into attention. This was especially important around children. Young children are curious. They move toward things. They do not always understand risk. A dog near camp could notice a stranger, an animal, or movement before a child did. Humans may have learned that a dog's sudden attention near the young was worth noticing. Over time, this made the dog feel not only useful, protective. Again, the dog may not have begun with ideas of duty. It was protecting itself, its food, its place, and the group it had joined. When it lived among humans, its watchfulness helped them. The line between self-protection and group protection became soft. The camp was safer. The dog was safer too. If the humans woke in time, the dog gained from their strength. This is how dogs became more than animals that followed for food. They became part of the camp's living alarm. No fence could move with people. No wall could smell the wind. No tool could wake on its own and listen. But a dog could. It could rest and remain partly aware, slept lightly beside human sleep. That gift touched the human body in a deep way. When people feel watched over, they rest differently. Breathing settles. Their shoulders loosen. Their sleep becomes less lonely. The danger outside may still exist, but it is no longer faced by human senses alone. Another being is listening with them, and so the first warning system was not made from stone or wood. It had warm breath, sharp ears, a living nose, and a heart that beat near the human world. It barked when the night changed. It stood still when the air carried a strange scent. It looked into the dark before humans knew where to look. Little by little, this made trust grow stronger. The dog warned, and humans woke. Humans listened, and the dog stayed. Together, they made the camp feel wider, safer, and less alone, preparing the way for a deeper kind of comfort beside the fire. Sleep was never a small thing in the ancient world. To sleep meant to let go for a while. It meant closing the eyes when the land was still moving, when the cold was still outside, when hunger might return by morning, and when danger could come without asking. Rest was needed, but rest also made people weak, so anything that made sleep feel safer became deeply important. This is where the dog began to enter the quiet heart of human life, not only as a hunter, not only as a warning voice, but as a warm, living presence near the people who were trying to rest. After the work of the day, after walking, gathering, carrying, cutting, sharing and watching, the camp needed calm, the body needed softness, mind needed to believe that it could stop holding every worry for a little while. A dog resting near people helped with that, brought warmth first in the simplest way. A living body gives off heat. In cold seasons, that mattered. People slept close to each other, because closeness saved warmth. A dog near the edge of a sleeping place added another small circle of heat, curled its body, breathed slowly, and shared the night with the group. But warmth was not only about the body. There was another kind of warmth, feeling of not being alone. Ancient nights could be long. The dark could make even familiar land feel strange. A person might wake and hear the fire low, the wind moving, and others breathing nearby. Then, close enough to know it was there, dog would shift or sigh or lift its head. That small sign of life could comfort the heart. The dog did not need to do anything great. Sometimes comfort comes from simple nearness. A sleeping child feels safer beside an adult. A tired adult feels easier when the group is close. In the same way, a dog resting nearby added to the feeling that the camp was held together. It became part of the shared rest. This was a deep change from the first days of fear. The animal that once waited outside the human world now rested near it. It had learned the rhythm of people. It knew when the group was active, when food was being shared, when voices were calm, when the night was settling. Humans had learned its rhythm too. They knew when it was relaxed. They knew when it was alert. They knew the difference between a normal movement and a warning movement. That knowledge made sleep easier. If the dog slept calmly, the camp could feel calm. If it woke suddenly, people could wake too. It was not perfect safety, but it was shared safety, and shared safety is one of the oldest forms of comfort. In the quiet camp, the dog became a bridge between rest and watchfulness. Humans could sleep more deeply because the dog did not sleep in exactly the same way. It rested, but some part of it stayed ready. Its ears could move at small sounds. Its nose could catch changes in the air. Its body could rise before human minds understood why. This made the night feel less empty. Over time, people may have started choosing where the dog slept. Calm dog near the entrance of a shelter could notice movement outside. A gentle dog near children could help the group feel easy. Trusted dog near stored food could give warning if another animal came close. These small places in camp life were not just practical, they were signs that the dog belonged. Belonging changes trust. When something belongs near you at night, it becomes more than useful, it becomes familiar to the body. The sound of its breathing, the weight of its steps, the shape of its rest, all become part of what safe feels like. Group does not have to think about it every time. The body simply knows. This is why dogs became so different from other animals. Many animals helped humans in some way. Some gave meat, some gave hides, some later gave milk, strength, or transport. But dogs shared the hours when humans were most unguarded. They were there when people slept. They were there when fear softened. They were there when children dreamed, when elders rested, and when tired hunters finally closed their eyes. Creature allowed near. Sleep is a creature trusted deeply. Sleep is private, even in a group. Sleep shows weakness. To rest near another living being means the body believes it will not be harmed. For ancient humans, allowing a dog close during sleep was a quiet statement stronger than words. It said, "We know you. We trust your nearness. You are part of our night." Dog also gained comfort from this closeness. It had warmth, food, shelter from some dangers, and the steady presence of a group. Could rest near fire, instead of alone in the open cold. It could learn the safety of human voices and human order. It could feel the camp as a kind of pack, different from wolves, but still full of pattern and belonging. So the bond grew softer. It was no longer only about scraps, warning, or hunting. It became about shared rest. It became about the calm feeling of another heartbeat nearby. It became about waking in the dark and knowing that the dog was still there, listening with you. In that quiet, the ancient camp became less lonely. The night was still wide. The cold was still real. The world beyond the fire still held mystery. Beside the people rested an animal that had chosen, again and again, to stay. And in its warmth, its breathing, its watchful sleep, humans found one of the first comforts that dogs ever gave them. A quiet promise that rest could be shared, and fear could loosen for a while to the calm and patient stars above. Dogs were not the only animals that became important to humans. Over time, people lived with many kinds of animals, and each one gave something special. Horses gave speed and distance. Cattle gave food, strength, hides, steady wealth. Cats helped keep small pests away from stored grain. Goats, sheep, birds, and other animals all found their own places in human life. But the trust people felt for dogs was different. It reached closer to the heart. A horse could carry a person farther than walking feet could go. It could pull, run, and help people cross land in a new way. This was a great gift, but a horse was often trusted with movement, not with the deepest private parts of life. It had power in its body. It could help people travel, hunt, carry, and later fight. Still, its mind was not shaped around watching human feelings in the same close way. Horses are sensitive animals. Humans formed strong bonds with them too. But the ancient bond with dogs began much earlier and much nearer to sleep, food, danger, and family. The dog was already beside the fire before the horse became a partner in travel. The dog was near when people were tired. It walked with the group, listened in the dark, and noticed changes in human voices. Cattle gave another kind of help. They gave milk in later farming life. They gave meat, hides, bone, horn, and strength. They could pull heavy loads and help fields become useful. For many human groups, cattle became a sign of wealth and survival. But cattle did not usually move through the human heart in the same way dogs did. They were deeply valuable, but they were not usually companions of the night. A cow could stand near a home and feed a family. An ox could pull with slow strength. These animals changed human life in powerful ways. They did not usually sleep as watchful friends near the doorway. They did not read every small change in human mood. They did not follow a person through fear, rest, hunger, and loneliness in the same close way. Cats came into human life in another soft and useful way. They helped later when people stored grain and small animals came to eat it. Cat could protect food by hunting mice and rats. It could move quietly, rest near people, and live close to homes. Many people loved cats. Cats gave comfort too. But cats kept more of their own distance. A cat can be near and still belong partly to itself. That is one of the reasons people enjoy cats. They are calm, quiet, careful, and independent. Dogs were different because they looked toward humans again and again. They waited for human signals. They listened to human voices. They wanted to know where the group was going. They joined human life with a kind of open attention that felt personal. This is the key difference. Other animals gave humans gifts from their bodies or habits. Horses gave movement. Cattle gave food and strength. Cats gave pest control and quiet company. Dogs gave attention. They gave warning. They gave closeness. Gave the feeling that another living being was not only useful, but emotionally present. That emotional presence mattered in ancient life. When a dog lifted its head because a person moved, it showed that the person mattered. When it followed a voice, it showed listening. When it stayed near a child, rested beside the group, or walked with a hunter, it showed belonging. Humans could feel this, even before they had any deep words for it. Dogs also gave loyalty in a very practical way. Loyalty did not mean a perfect storybook devotion at first. It meant returning to the same people, staying near the same camp, learning the same voices, warning the same group, following the same path. Over time, this repeated staying became something humans could depend on. Dependence builds trust. If an animal is there in the morning, there at night, there on the path, there near the fire, and there when danger comes, the mind begins to place it inside the circle of safety. It is no longer only an animal outside the group. It becomes part of how the group understands home. Dogs were also small enough, or at least close enough in size, to live beside people in a very direct way. A large animal might be kept nearby, but not always close to the sleeping body. Dog could lie near a person. It could follow through narrow paths. It could rest at the edge of a shelter, move from work to sleep to warning without needing a separate world. This closeness made the bond daily. The dog was not only useful during one task. It was useful in many small moments. It helped during hunting, guarded during sleep, cleaned scraps, gave warmth, noticed strangers and offered company. Its value was spread through the whole day and night. That made it feel less like a tool and more like a companion. And companionship may be the deepest reason. Humans trusted dogs more than any other animal. A companion shares time, a companion notices you. A companion stays close when nothing special is happening. Dogs did that, filled the quiet spaces between hard tasks. They made the camp feel watched over, the path feel shared, and the night feel less empty. They gave the heart a steady friend in a difficult ancient world. So while many animals shaped human history, dogs shaped human feeling in a special way. They were not the strongest, largest, fastest, or most useful in every task, but they were the ones that watched us back. They entered the human circle not only through hunger or work, but through attention, patience, warning, nearness. And that is why, above horses, cattle, cats, and many others, dogs became the animal humans trusted most deeply. Change from wolf to dog was not sudden. It was not one person finding one wolf and turning it into a pet. It was slower than that, softer than that, and much older than any clear memory. It happened through many small choices, many quiet nights, many generations of animals living close to human life. At the beginning, the animals near people were still wolves. They had wild bodies, wild senses, and wild fear, but not every wolf was the same. Some were too bold and came too close in dangerous ways. Humans would drive those wolves away. Some were too fearful and never came near enough to share food or safety. They stayed in the deep wild, living as wolves had always lived. Between these two kinds were the calmer wolves. They were careful, but not too afraid. They were hungry, but not reckless. They could wait near camp, take scraps, listen to human warning, and leave without trouble. These wolves had a better chance to survive around people. They found extra food. They stayed warmer. They avoided some dangers by living near fire and human groups. Over time, calm behavior became useful. A wolf that panicked at every human sound could not stay close. A wolf that attacked or stole too boldly would be chased away or killed. But a wolf that watched, waited, and understood distance could remain. It could eat more often. It could grow stronger. It could raise young near this strange new world. Then, the young mattered. If calmer wolves had young, some of those young may have been calmer too. They may have heard human voices early in life. They may have smelled smoke, meat, skins, and people before fear grew too deep. They may have learned that human camps were not only places of danger, but places where food, warmth, and order could be found. This is the simple heart of domestication. The animals that fit better near humans survived better near humans. Their young grew up closer to humans. Then the next generation was even more used to human life. No one needed to understand the whole process. No one needed to say, "We are making a dog." Life was doing the slow work. Humans may have helped without fully knowing it. They may have allowed the gentler animals to stay. They may have fed the ones that behaved calmly. They may have driven away the ones that threatened children or food. They may have kept close the young animals that were easier to handle. Each small human choice shaped the future, even if no one could see how far it would go. The animals were also shaping themselves by choosing the human edge. Wolf that stayed near people was choosing a different life from a wolf that stayed far away. It was eating different food, hearing different sounds. It was learning different rules. Its young were born into a world where humans were part of daily life. Slowly, bodies and minds began to change. The calmer animals may have become less fearful. Their faces may have softened. Their behavior may have become more playful for longer. Their ears, tails, coats, and voices may have changed across time. These changes did not all happen at once. They came slowly, like a path made by many feet walking the same way. Most important change was not just in shape. The early dog became more comfortable near people. It could sleep closer. It could follow more easily. It could listen to human voices with less fear. It could look to humans for food, safety, and direction. Wild wolf was becoming an animal that could live inside human life. Still, the dog did not stop being an animal of deep senses. It kept the nose, ears, alertness, and social mind that came from its wolf past. That is why it was so useful and so trusted. It was not simply a weak wolf, it was something new. It carried wild gifts, but it used them beside humans. This gentle change also changed humans. People began to expect the animal near them. They began to understand its signs. They may have cared for its young, shared food with it, mourned when a trusted animal died. The bond became part of daily life, not just a useful trick. It entered memory, habit, and feeling. Domestication was a relationship, not a one-sided act. Humans shaped dogs, and dogs shaped human life. Humans gave food, warmth, protection, place near the group. Dogs gave warning, hunting help, company, and attention. Each side made the other's world more livable. This is why the change feels gentle when we imagine it over a long time. It was built from staying, returning, listening, and surviving together. No single night created the dog. No single meal created trust, but thousands of small peaceful moments, repeated across many lives, turned fear into familiarity, and familiarity into belonging. By the time the animal was truly becoming a dog, it was already different from the wolf, at the first edge of the firelight. It was closer to people, it could read them better, it could be read by them more easily. It had become part of the human circle. Not fully human, never human, but deeply connected to human life. And so the dog was born slowly, not from force, but from nearness. The calmer wolves stayed close. Their calmer young stayed closer. The human camp became part of their world, and they became part of the human story. Step by step, generation by generation, Wild Watcher at the edge became the trusted companion beside the fire. From that point, the old distance could never be the same. A new kind of animal had entered human life, one that remembered the wild, but chose again and again to stay close to human hands and human voices through each long, quiet, ancient night. One of the deepest changes in the story of dogs was not only that they lived near humans, that they began to look back at humans in a new way. They watched our faces, they noticed our voices, they paid attention to our moods, slowly. Humans began to feel that this animal did not only see the body standing there, it saw the person. For a social human being seen matters. Long before writing, long before cities, long before mirrors or portraits, people read each other through faces. A lifted brow, tight mouth, tired eyes, a soft smile, a warning look, all of these carried meaning. A human face could say, "Come closer, stay back, be calm, be careful, help me, or rest now." Dogs entered this world of meaning. They did not understand human faces exactly the way humans did, but they learned that faces mattered. The face told them where attention was going. It told them whether a person was angry, gentle, worried, pleased. A dog that could read these signs had an easier life with people. It knew when to wait. It knew when to approach. It knew when to lower its body and stay quiet. Humans noticed this. A dog that looked toward a human face felt different from an animal that only took food or danger. It felt aware. It felt present. If a person spoke softly and the dog relaxed, the person felt answered. If a person frowned or warned, and the dog stepped back, the person felt understood. These small answers built a very personal kind of trust. Trust was not based only on use. A tool can be useful, but it does not look back. A shelter can protect, but it does not notice your sadness. Fire can warm, but it does not change when your voice changes. A dog could do something different. It could respond to the feeling in a human moment. That response may have touched something very old inside people. Humans are made to search for meaning in another face. Baby looks toward faces before it understands words. Adults look at faces to know if a group is safe, tense, kind, or afraid. So when dogs began to follow human faces, they stepped into one of the most important parts of human life. Over many generations, the dogs that were best at this may have been welcomed more easily. A dog that watched people carefully was easier to guide. A dog that noticed calmness was easier to keep near children. A dog that reacted to anger without becoming dangerous was easier to trust. These dogs were more likely to stay close, eat well, and have young near human homes or camps. Their young then grew up inside a human world. They heard voices from early life. They saw hands, faces, and daily movement. They learned that a person's eyes could tell them where to look. They learned that a soft face often meant safety, while a hard face often meant caution. Little by little, this ability became part of what made a dog a dog. It is important to keep this simple. Dogs did not become human. They did not think human thoughts. They did not understand every sorrow, every plan, or every memory. But they became very good at noticing human signals, and sometimes, for trust, that is enough. A living being does not have to understand everything to offer comfort. It only has to notice, stay, and answer gently. Imagine an ancient person sitting after a long day, tired from walking, cold from wind, and quiet from worry. Near them the dog lifts its head, hears the breath change. It sees the stillness in the body. It comes closer, not with words, not with questions, but with presence. In that moment, the person is not fully alone. This is where the bond becomes emotional. Protection is powerful. Hunting help is powerful. Warmth is powerful. Feeling understood is something else. When an animal turns toward you because your mood has changed, it creates a soft bridge between two minds. The bridge may be simple, but it is real. Dogs also learn to use their own faces with humans. A relaxed mouth, soft eyes, raised ears, lowered head, slow blinking, or quiet waiting could calm people. Humans learn to read these signs too. They could tell when a dog was afraid, curious, excited, tired, or peaceful. The relationship became a two-way reading of small signals. This two-way reading made daily life smoother. A person could call the dog with a look or a soft sound. The dog could ask for food, attention, or space through its posture. Humans could warn it away from danger. The dog could warn humans with sudden attention. So much passed between them without clear speech. There's one reason dogs became trusted more deeply than many animals. They did not only live beside humans, they joined the human habit of watching faces and feelings. They became part of the quiet, emotional language of the group. But they learned when the camp was calm, when it was tense, when someone was leaving, when someone was returning, and when the night needed care, time. People may have felt that dogs carried a kind of loyalty in their eyes. The dog looked back, followed, waited, and returned. It did not always obey perfectly. It did not always understand, but it cared about the human response. It wanted to stay connected. That made the dog feel less like a wild visitor and more like a companion with a place in the heart. This feeling still lives today. A modern person can look at a dog and feel understood, even in silence. That feeling has ancient roots. It began when humans and dogs shared attention beside fire, on paths, near sleep, and in moments of danger. It grew when dogs learned to read our faces, and when humans learned to trust the answer in theirs. So the face of the dog became one of the quiet doors into trust. Not because it spoke, but because it looked back. Not because it knew everything, because it noticed enough. In its eyes, humans found attention. In its stillness, they found comfort. and in its gentle answer to human feeling, they found a bond deeper than work, deeper than food, and close enough to feel like friendship. From there, the dog's place near people became softer, warmer, and more personal, ready to follow humans into settled life very soon. The story of dogs did not stop at the edge of moving camps, as humans slowly began to stay longer. In certain places, the dog stayed with them. The old partnership came forward into a new kind of life. People still hunted, gathered, walked, and watched the weather. But in some places, they also began to build more lasting homes, store food, plant seeds, and return to the same ground again. For a dog, this kind of settled life gave new meaning to belonging. Camp that moved often had its own rhythm, but a village had another rhythm. There were repeated paths, repeated smells, repeated sleeping places, repeated people. The dog could learn all of it. Slowly, day by day, it could know who belonged there, who came often, who was strange, important places. Food stores changed human life. When people began keeping grain, dried meat, seeds, or other supplies, they had something to protect. Stored food meant tomorrow could feel a little safer, but it also attracted hungry animals. Small creatures came for grain. Larger animals could come for scraps or meat. Strangers might come too. Dog near these places became useful without much instruction. It noticed. It smelled visitors. It barked when something felt wrong. Homes also needed watching. A shelter or early house was more than a place to sleep. It held warmth, tools, food, children, memories, the work of many hands. When a dog rested near a doorway or near family space, it became part of that home's safety. It did what dogs had already done beside the fire, but now the fire had a more fixed place. The dog followed people through daily work as well. When someone went to fetch water, a dog might come along. When someone carried food, cut wood, worked hides, or walked to the edge of the settlement, the dog might follow. This following was not always commanded. It came from habit and connection. The dog knew the people knew the dog. Their days began to overlap. In a village, that overlap became familiar to everyone. Children grew up hearing dogs nearby. Elders sat with dogs passing in and out of daily space. Workers stepped around them, fed them scraps, called them away, or let them rest. The dog became part of the normal sound and movement of human life. It was not a visitor anymore. It was part of the place. This was a change in trust. In the old moving camp, the dog proved itself through hunting, warning, and shared nights. In settled life, proved itself through steadiness. It was there each morning. It knew the paths between homes. It knew where people gathered. It knew when the village was calm and when something did not feel right. Its memory became tied to place. Dogs also help create a softer boundary around human settlements. A wall can show where a place begins, but many early villages had simple edges. The real boundary was often made from smell, sound, human activity, and repeated use. Dogs strengthened that boundary. They moved along the edges. They noticed strangers before people did. They gave warning when something crossed into the human space. This did not make life free from danger. Villages still faced hunger, illness, weather, conflict, and loss. Dogs could not solve everything. They helped with the everyday feeling of watchfulness. They gave people another layer of attention. And in a settled place, where families slept near stored food and daily tools, that layer mattered. The dog's role also became more personal inside families. Dog might belong most closely to one household, even if it knew the wider group. It might follow one person more than others, might sleep near certain children. It might wait near a cooking place, because it had learned where scraps appeared. These simple habits made bonds stronger. Over time, people may have started seeing differences between dogs more clearly. One dog was better at warning. Another was calm with children. Another followed hunters. Another stayed near food. Another was bold towards strangers. These differences helped humans value dogs as individuals. The trust was no longer only for dogs as a kind of animal. It was also for this dog, with this nature, this memory, and place in the group. The village also changed the dog's mind. Dog raised around people from birth learned human life as its normal world. It heard voices all day. It saw hands working. It watched people share, argue, rest, and return. It learned the difference between a neighbour and a stranger. It learned the timing of meals, sleep, work, and movement. Human order became part of its own order. This made dogs even better at living with people. They could fit into routines. They could wait near doors. They could follow paths without being taught every step. They could rest while people worked, then rise when someone prepared to leave. Village gave them many chances to practice being near humans without fear. For humans, this constant nearness deepened trust in a quiet way. Trust grows when life is shared, not only when danger comes. The dog was there on ordinary days, and ordinary days are powerful. Was there when grain was dried, when fires were tended, when children played, when old tools were repaired, when people returned tired, and when the night settled over the homes. Because dogs were present in these small hours, they became part of memory. A child might remember a dog from early life the way they remembered a doorway, a path, a sleeping place, or a familiar voice. The dog belonged to the feeling of home. It carried the smell of the village, the patience of waiting, and the comfort of returning. This is why early settled life did not weaken the bond between humans and dogs. It gave the bond more places to grow. The dog was still a watcher, still a follower, still a helper, still a companion. But now it also became part of the daily rhythm of human homes. It guarded what people had built, walked the same paths. It rested near stored food and sleeping families. And as humans learned to stay, dogs learned to stay with them. The old animal of the edge became an animal of the doorway, the path, the yard, and the shared morning. In early villages, the trust that began beside fire became woven into home itself, preparing dogs for the many jobs they would carry through the long human story. Dogs settled deeper into human life. Their work slowly became wider. At first, they may have come for scraps, warmth, and safety. Then they helped by watching the dark and following scent on the ground. But, over many generations, humans began to see that the dog could do many things. It was not useful in only one way. It could fit into many parts of the day. First job was probably still hunting. A dog could search with its nose where human eyes found nothing. It could follow the smell of an animal across dirt, snow, grass, stone, and dry leaves. It could notice where a wounded animal had passed, where a herd had turned, or where small prey had hidden. For people who needed food, this was a powerful gift. But hunting with dogs was not only about speed. It was about teamwork. The dog moved ahead, stopped, listened, and turned back. Humans learned to read those small signals. The dog learned to move with human pace. Together, followed the land more carefully than either could alone. A good hunting dog made the world feel less empty, because it could find the hidden paths written in scent. Guarding was another great job. Dog did not need a wall to understand that something was near. It could rest, then rise quickly. It could hear a stranger before a person saw them. It could smell another animal before it entered the camp or village. Its bark told the group to wake, look, listen, and prepare. This guarding was not always fierce. Often it was simply watchful. The dog stood between the known place and the unknown place. It stayed near food, shelters, children, or sleeping people. It gave warning when the ordinary rhythm changed. That was enough to make humans feel safer. Dogs also helped protect stored food. When people began to keep grain, dried meat, and other supplies, those supplies needed care. Small animals could come for them. Larger animals could be drawn by smell. A dog near food stores could notice movement, scent, and sound. Even before it chased anything away, it could make people aware. In some places and times, dogs also helped carry, pull light loads or carry small packs, depending on the land, the people, and the size of the dog. This was not the same everywhere. Where it happened, it showed another kind of partnership. The dog was not only a watcher or hunter. It could share the weight of travel. Even a small help could matter. Ancient life was full of carrying. People carried tools, food, skins, wood, water, children, memories of where to go next. A dog that helped move something, even a little, became part of the work of the group, walked not just beside humans, but with a small purpose of its own. Later, when humans lived more with herd animals, dogs took on another role. They helped guide sheep, goats, cattle, and other animals. This did not happen at the very beginning, but it became one of the great jobs of dogs in settled and farming life. A dog could move around a herd, keep animals together, and help humans control movement across open land. Herding needed patience and attention. The dog had to watch the animals, also listen to the person. It had to move without causing too much fear. It had to understand direction, pressure, and distance. This made the dog even more connected to human work. It became a bridge between people and other animals. There were also smaller jobs that may not sound important, but were deeply part of life. Dogs cleaned scraps from camp. They followed people on paths. They stayed near children. They warmed sleeping places. They warned when strangers came. They kept lonely workers company. They were present during ordinary hours, when nothing great was happening, and that presence mattered. Company is a real job, even if it is quiet. A person walking alone with a dog does not feel fully alone. A child sitting near a calm dog may feel braver. An elder resting near a familiar animal may feel less forgotten. After loss, hunger, cold, or worry, the dog's steady nearness could soothe the human heart. This emotional comfort may have been one of the most important gifts of all. Humans can be strong and still need comfort. Ancient people faced hard days, uncertain seasons, and dangerous nights. A dog could not explain sorrow. It could not solve every fear. But it could stay. It could rest nearby. It could look back. It could answer a soft voice with attention. That simple staying made dogs different. A hunting tool could be put away. A fence could stand still. A fire could burn down. But a dog was alive. It could follow from one task to the next. It could be guard in the night, helper in the hunt, companion on the path, and comfort in silence. Time, humans likely began to value different dogs for different strengths. One dog had a sharp nose. Another had a loud warning bark. Another was gentle with children. Another stayed close to home. Another was bold near wild animals. These differences helped shape the many kinds of dogs that would appear later. The ancient dog did not need to be perfect in every job. It only needed to belong well enough. It needed to understand the human world, answer human signals, and bring something useful or comforting to daily life. The more roles it filled, the more deeply it entered human trust. This is why dogs became woven through human history. They were not only animals at the edge of the fire anymore. They were part of work, travel, rest, warning, food, family, and feeling. They moved through the full circle of life with people. And in all these jobs, one quiet truth stayed the same. The dog helped humans feel less alone in the world. Whether it was tracking scent, guarding a home, carrying a small load, guiding animals, or resting beside a tired person, The dog shared life. It joined the human day from morning to night. It was there when people worked with their hands, when they rested their feet, and when they shared food, and when they listened to the weather. Its jobs were many, but its gift was simple, steady presence again and again for years. With every task, every path, and every quiet return, the ancient bond grew stronger, preparing both species to change each other even more deeply. The bond between humans and dogs changed both sides. It is easy to say that humans changed wolves into dogs, and that is true in one way. Humans gave calmer animals food, warmth, shelter, place near the group. They allowed some to stay and drove others away. Across many generations, this helped shape the animal we now call the dog. But the story did not move in only one direction. Dogs changed humans too. They changed how people slept, how they watched the land, how they moved through danger, and how they felt inside the wide old world. They gave humans a new kind of partner, one that was not human, but still close enough to share fear, work, rest, and comfort. Before dogs, humans had only human senses to depend on. They had sharp eyes, careful ears, memory and skill. They had fire, tools, and each other. But with dogs beside them, their world became wider. The dog smelled what people could not smell. It heard what people could not hear. It noticed small changes before human minds were ready. In this way, dogs helped extend the human body into the dark. That made people safer, but it also changed the feeling of being alive. Safety is not only about surviving the danger that arrives, it is also about how the body feels before danger comes. A person who believes someone else is watching can rest more easily. Group with a dog nearby can share the burden of attention. The fear does not vanish, but it becomes lighter, because it is no longer held by humans alone. Dogs also helped humans feel more connected to the living world. Ancient people already knew animals deeply. They followed tracks, watched birds, respected large predators, and learned from every creature around them. But dogs were different because they came close and stayed. They were not only signs in the land, they were companions in the group. This closeness may have made humans more aware of animal feeling. A person living with a dog could see fear, joy, hunger, calm, excitement, and worry in another species every day. The dog's body spoke in simple ways. A wagging tail, a low head, alert ears, a soft face, or a restless step all carried meaning. Humans learned to read these signs with care, and as humans read dogs, dogs read humans. This back and forth changed both minds. The human learned to speak with tone, gesture, routine, and patience. The dog learned to answer those things. Quiet kind of conversation grew between them, not made from full language, but from attention. This may be one of the oldest shared languages between humans and another animal. Dogs also changed human work. Hunt. A hunt with a dog was different from a hunt without one. A camp with a dog was different from a camp without one. Path walked with a dog felt different from a path walked alone. The dog did not remove hardship, but it added help in many small places, brought scent, warning, company, and energy into the human day. This made human life feel less lonely. Loneliness in ancient times was not always about being alone in the modern sense. People lived in groups. They had family, elders, children, companions. But there is another kind of loneliness that comes from facing a huge world with only human strength. Dogs softened that feeling. They stood between people and the unknown. Not as a wall, but as a living friend. The dog also changed the human idea of trust. Trust with another person is one thing. Trust with another species is something strange and beautiful. It means the human heart learned that safety, loyalty, and comfort could come from a creature with a different body and a different mind. That is a deep lesson. It says that connection does not always need sameness. For dogs, the change was just as great. Their ancestors had lived by wolf rules, moving through wild land with their own packs. Near humans, a new path opened. Food came from human hands. Shelter came near human fire. Safety came from belonging to a different kind of group. The dog learned to look to people, and people learned to look back. Over generations, dogs became animals shaped by relationship. Their bodies changed, but their social lives changed even more. They became able to live in human homes, follow human movement, and answer human emotion. They kept many old gifts from the wolf, but those gifts were now woven into human life. The sharp nose, the alert ears, the group mind, and the watchful heart all found new work beside people. This bond also taught humans patience. Dog cannot be understood by force alone. To live well with a dog, people had to notice timing, fear, reward, trust and mood. They had to learn when to call, when to wait, when to feed, when to warn, and when to let the animal rest. This kind of daily care may have made the human relationship with animals deeper and more thoughtful. Of course, the ancient world was still hard. Dogs did not make life gentle all the time. There was still hunger, cold, sickness, loss, and danger. But dogs made the hard world more bearable. They brought another heartbeat into the circle. They gave warning before trouble, comfort after work, and company in quiet hours. When humans changed dogs, they created an animal more suited to human life. When dogs changed humans, they gave people a new way to feel at home in the world. They helped turn wild nights into watched nights. They helped turn lonely paths into shared paths. They helped turn fear into something that could be carried together. That is why the bond became so strong. It was not built on one need. It was built on many needs touching each other. Food, warmth, hunting, guarding, sleep, attention, and comfort all became part of the same story. Humans trusted dogs. Because dogs entered so many parts of life, dogs trusted humans because humans became their world. In the end, both species became different because they chose nearness. The wolf became the dog, and the human camp became a place where another species could belong. Together they made life safer, warmer, more connected. One quiet day and one guarded night at a time. Until the bond itself became part of who both of them were, carried forward through every later home, village, journey, and quiet evening, wherever humans and dogs rested together peacefully. Trust between humans and dogs did not end when the ancient fires faded. It moved forward with us. It followed people into villages, across fields, along roads, into homes, and finally into the modern rooms where many dogs now sleep beside beds, doors, couches, and quiet human lives. The world has changed almost beyond recognition, but something old still remains. Today, people do not need a dog to warn them about a large animal in the dark. We have walls, lights, locks, phones, and busy streets. We buy food instead of tracking it through wild land. We sleep under roofs instead of open sky. Yet, when a dog lifts its head at a sound outside, many of us still feel that ancient comfort. Something is listening with us. That feeling is not imaginary. It comes from a very old relationship. The modern dog still carries pieces of the wolf, but softened through thousands of years beside people. It still listens to tone, it still watches faces. It still learns the habits of a home. It still knows when someone is leaving, when someone is returning, when a room is calm, and when a person feels different from usual. A dog may not understand human worry in full human language, but it can notice change. It may notice a slower walk, a quieter voice, a longer silence, or a hand resting without movement. Then it may come closer. It may lie near the feet, place its head down, or simply stay in the same room. This simple staying is part of why the trust still feels so deep. Long ago, the shared meal began with bones and scraps at the edge of camp. Today, it may be a bowl on the floor, a treat given from a hand, or a dog waiting politely while people eat. The shape has changed, but the message is old. Food still says, "You belong here." Food still builds routine. Food still turns a house into a shared place. Long ago, dogs watched the dark while humans slept. Today, they may watch the door, listen from a hallway, or bark when someone comes near. Even a small dog can carry a large feeling of safety. It may not be facing the same ancient dangers, but the human body still understands the signal. The dog is alert. The home is not unwatched. Long ago, dogs followed hunters across cold ground and open land. Today, they follow people on walks, through parks, across rooms, and into daily routines. They still move with us. They still turn back to see where we are. They still read the pace of our steps. The old shared journey now appears in simple modern forms, but the bond is the same kind of bond. Long ago, dogs rested beside fires. Today, they rest near heaters, blankets, beds, and windows. They still bring warmth, not only from the body, but from presence. Room with a calm dog can feel less empty. A hard day can feel softer when a familiar animal waits nearby. The dog does not need to speak to change the feeling of the room. This is why dogs are often called loyal. Loyalty is not only brave acts or great stories. It is also the quiet return every day. It is waiting near the door. It is following from room to room. It is learning the sound of one person's footstep. It is lifting the head when a familiar voice comes home. Loyalty is repeated nearness. The ancient bond still lives because it was built on things that humans still need. We still need safety. We still need comfort. We still need to be noticed. We still need companionship in quiet hours. We still feel calmer when another living being is close, steady, and kind. Dogs entered these needs long ago, and they never fully left. Modern life can sometimes make people feel far from nature and far from each other. Days can be busy, loud, and strange. People can live in crowded places and still feel alone. A dog can bring a person back to something simple. Wake, eat, walk, rest, return, breathe, notice, be here. These small rhythms are old rhythms, and they calm the mind. The dog also reminds us that trust does not have to be complicated. It can be built through small acts. Feeding, calling, walking, waiting, touching gently, coming back, sleeping nearby. Day after day, these acts become a language. The dog learns the human, and the human learns the dog. The old bridge is rebuilt inside each home. There is also comfort in knowing that this friendship is older than cities, older than writing, older than many things humans now think of as normal. Before so much of the modern world existed, there was already this bond. A human group, a watching animal, a shared night, and a slow trust forming between them. That is why a dog's eyes can still feel familiar in a deep way. When a dog looks back at a person, it touches the same feeling ancient humans may have known beside the fire. Here is another creature, not human, but close. It is watching. It is listening. It is answering. It is sharing this little space of life. Of course, every dog is different. Some are gentle, some are nervous, some are playful, some are quiet, some need time, patience, and care. Trust is never automatic. It is still built the old way, through repeated safe moments. This is part of the lesson dogs continue to teach us. The deepest bonds grow slowly. Perhaps that is the calmest truth in the whole story. Humans trusted dogs more than any other animal, because dogs came near and stayed. They helped with hunger, danger, sleep, work, and loneliness. They learned our signs, and we learned theirs. They became part of our homes, because they had first become part of our survival. So when a dog sleeps nearby today, there is something ancient in that peace. The fire may now be a lamp. The shelter may now be a house. The night outside may be quieter and safer than before. But the feeling remains. A trusted animal is close. A living heart rests near our own, and across all the long years between the first wolf at the edge of the firelight and the dog beside us. Now, the old promise still breathes softly. You are not alone. You are watched with care, known through habit, and held inside a friendship older than memory itself, and gentle time